Well, let's get started. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Medical Marijuana Awareness Seminar. This is actually our last one for 2020. It's on a very, very important subject, cancer. I know that a lot of people have asked questions, worried about, and have some information that they'd like to get about. Does cancer help address? Does medical marijuana address cancer? Does it help with the treatments? Is it real? Is it something that you can hang your hat on? I know that here in the United States, there's been a lot of talk about cancer research, and we're going to talk about this particular subject in depth because it's really important. This may be the last webinar of the year, but I think it's one of the most important that we do. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I know that this time of the year, it's always a little bit harder because it's always get darker early and things like that. But I think that hopefully the subject matter will help you be able to address your particular issues. And I want to point out, please ask questions. That's what we're here for. We'd like to answer your questions about cancer and medical cannabis. Down below, you'll see a little button here that says Q&A. If you have any questions, please type the question and we'll address it either during the presentation or after the presentation. So please feel free to do that. Now, I am honored and privileged tonight to share this co-host with a person who actually has had cancer, has used medical cannabis to overcome it, and did it out of the sheer will and determination to be able to be a survivor. I think you used I'll let you, you have a term for it.
Yeah,
I'll let you use
because
it.
I like to use, those words, those keywords. So yeah, my name is Jenifer Perdomo, and I did go through really, really bad. It was stage 3, 38, 3 children, teenagers, single mom, and everything stopped. Long story short, lost everything, almost lost my life. Cancer was just very, very tough, not only on my body and pains, but also emotionally. If people think, oh yeah, the physical part, pain, but also the emotional part. And, and we'll talk a little bit more later, but cannabis was such an essential part of me going through chemo and the aftermath of chemo. Again, not only physically, but emotionally. Now, for a living, I was always in healthcare. I worked in the respiratory therapy industry, and mostly ventilators, specific patients with ventilators. So I was very aware of healthcare, I worked and all that. And now, once I finished chemo radiation, then I had to go to the workforce. I was able to get a job in the cannabis industry, in the legal cannabis industry in Florida. And as a patient, I knew how important it was for me to be in this position so I can help explain, so everyone can understand the way this works. This is just amazing, guys. Stay tuned because there's so much great information here. It's going to help you and everyone around you.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is a lot of people talk. You're actually walking the walk. Yeah. And that's what's important. I know a lot of people say, well, do you know anybody? And the answer is yes, I do. In fact, I know a couple people.
We've been speaking lately a lot, and he knows I've been going through a lot of issues with pain in my jaw side, and I'm introducing cannabis, and it's not that I've gotten rid of pharmaceuticals all 100%. Sometimes they are needed, but it is I walk it. Like, there are days that I'm doing magnificent that you can't even imagine or think that I had cancer, but some days I'm just devastated with pain or any other condition. So definitely walk it. I feel it.
Good. Well, listen, I don't want this to be a bunch of slideware, but I do think we need to present some material to address the issue of cancer and medical cannabis. So I'd like to do a little screen share if you don't mind. Over here. There we go. And again, as I'm mentioning, Jenifer is from Trulieve. You see a lot of doctors. You do a lot of doctor training and a lot of.
So yeah, that's what I do basically. If I want to say 80, 85, maybe 90% of my time I spend with physicians, their staff members. Not only physicians I recommend, but physicians that are looking to either refer their patients out or maybe refer at some point. And it's just amazing, to see how much their patients improve and the community that we've built. It's such a wonderful community.
Sure. Now, I do want to point out that this we're serious in this webinar. This is a webinar to really have a judgment-free area to talk about the safe and effective use of cannabis. And I also want to point out that anytime you're looking at anything that relates to your health, it's always good to consult your doctor, your medical doctor, as well as your cannabis doctor. This is something you have one life and you have a couple of professionals that are around to help you. Please use them. They'll give you some better advice than you think. And I know a lot of people are concerned about discussing cannabis with their medical doctor legitimately, but I think that the tide is beginning to change with respect to the medical doctor's attitudes towards cannabis. There always will be a group that just rejects it no matter what. But I think, at least in the case of my particular doctor, I've seen over the past 3 years, he's now actually, I wouldn't say pro cannabis, but he's very tolerant of cannabis, and in fact recommends it over pharma drugs in certain kid situations. So please do that. Again, we're patients and we're advocates, researchers, students. We're just really kind of pull everything together. Now, I want to talk for a moment, if we can, about cancer. Because what is it? What are we going after? What are we trying to affect? What are we trying to do? There's over 100 different types of cancers that affect human beings. There's been a lot of research, obviously, here in the United States on cancer. There's the bottom line is cancer spreads throughout your body. And what it does is it eats, or it consumes 5 to 20 times more energy than your normal blood, your normal cell. So what it does, it begins to be able to eat up all the energy in your body and kill your good kill your good cells. And that's what cancer is really doing. Benign tumors don't spread, but cancer cells, the ones that we're worried about, the malignant ones, they do. They grow, they constantly grow, they divide. They have an ability to avoid death cells, what's out there. That's their biggest issue that's there. So, and there's a number of cell divisions going on. The point is, this is a very active, and in certain cases, people have cancer that they consider to be very aggressive. And this is something that your body, everybody is different, but it's something that's there. Cancer is something where, again, your cells of your body have been introduced by a cancer that is using more energy than the rest of the blood cells and excuse me, the rest of the cells around it, and it's causing them to die. And that's what the effect is all about. Cancer is one of the many conditions that have seen positive treatments from cannabis. I think, you're one of them, Jenifer. You've seen that. You've seen, we talk about, is there research? I get down to something more fundamentally. Are there people out there that have used it and lived? And what caused you to turn to medical cannabis?
The fear of dying in such a debilitating way. After I went through chemo radiation, many treatments of the radiation was like 40 something, and then like 7 or 8 chemos. I all of a sudden got so weak towards the end of that, and then we finished it, and then nothing happened. And then they're like, okay, well, all we have left is a clinical trial. So I was like, okay, the first clinical trial, 2 blood transfusions. That was the breaking point. I was like, wait a minute. Am I supposed to just do another one and not be here anymore? I started preparing for my funeral. I was like, okay, well, because I knew that I couldn't take anymore. And that was it. I blame my use of cannabis at that time with being able to deal with the symptoms that I had and not have to use prescription drugs that were blurring my decision making for my health. Okay, and now I think about it and I think back and I'm like, wait, should I have done all those things that I did? Should I have done treatment a little different? And it was the cannabis. I blame it on the cannabis that gave me the clarity to make the right decision for myself. And that was to stop the clinical trial. And that's when I just fully got onto cannabis. And I just started feeling real good, little by little, real good. And, I still have my pains and my things, like I said, but compared to what I could have been, I most likely would not have been here to say the story. I mean, that's the truth.
Sure. Well, the reason I bring that out is because there's been a lot of research that's done, not in the United States. Most of the research is done outside the United States, like in Spain and Israel, places like that. And what it's shown is that cannabis has the ability to shrink the cancer tumors and actually to slow the growth of the tumors. They've been able to demonstrate that, and they've been able to show that. And that's why I'm very encouraged, hopefully with the legislation coming in the United States to take Schedule I drugs off, we can now use cannabis as one of the research tools to be able to really go after this, because they've shown in Spain and other places that this in fact works. And it's not just the physical pain. I think you mentioned the reason I asked for your story is because it's helping you physically, but it's also helping you with the psychological benefits that's out there. Because I think you were going into a very dark place very quickly with what was going on.
Very quickly, and it's being a mom, it's just something unexplainable, the hurt and the bad feeling. But, again, cannabis was such a part of giving me this positivity, this not hope per se, but positivity that I wasn't able to get any other way and that I needed at that time to
Sure.
get better, you know?
Sure. And I think that's what's, and I think that's important is, again, walk the walk. Here's somebody who's actually done it. And again, you've talked to a lot of people that have been in the same boat. It does work. I'm not, like anything else, it's not 100% guaranteed, but it is something to take a look at. And you said something to me that really hit me one time. You were preparing for this. You said, you look at your children and said, I can't die. I want to raise them.
Yeah.
I think that was a big motivator.
I'm like, I need a few more years with my kids. Like they're ready, but they're not there yet. And that's the strength. Oh man.
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the research that has been done. RSO, Rick Simpson Oil. You want to talk about this? This is
yeah. This is something that it was my rescue medicine this past week. I was so thankful for having that in my cupboard because I don't have a medicine cabinet per se. My medicine cabinet is a bunch of teas and a bunch of herbs and things like that. And then I have anything against pharmaceuticals. They're greatly needed, especially in sometimes they're like, that's what you need. But RSO stands for Rick Simpson Oil. And you guys research when you get a chance, Rick Simpson, considered, of course, the father of RSO. RSO is a form of having cannabis in a concentrated way. As you can see it, he's holding a syringe of it. It's a very dark green plant matter, very sticky, and it's very, very strong. It's very concentrated. So it's a type of medication that you have to be very careful, very gentle, have a lot of patience to titrate up to the maximum or threshold dosage to reach what relief you're looking for.
Now the key is it's also a plant.
Yes, he had cancer. He had melanoma, and that's how he came up with this. He was trying to heal himself, and he made up this recipe, perfected it, used it on his own skin cancer, and it went away. And he's perfected it, and he's shared it. He shared the recipe. He doesn't charge anyone for it. He has a book about it. And it's just amazing, amazing that this exists.
It's one of the things I find interesting about Rick Simpson is if you go to places like the Cannabis Patients Wall, which does testimonials, you'll find 60,000 testimonials about Rick Cancer and Rick Simpson. I mean, this isn't something that two people in the back room tried and let's see if it works. It's in something that, I mean, if that was a clinical trial, that would be interesting. Okay. That's what's fascinating. But Rick Simpson, RSO, you'll hear the term RSO all the time. It's Rick Simpson Oil. And this gentleman should be given a lot of credit for what he's done. Again, he's given it away for free. He basically wanted the world to get better, including himself. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. One of the other people that should be noted is a lady by the name of Dr. Christina Sanchez.
This is probably one of my favorite research in the cannabis fields. One of my top favorite ones.
But tell us about Christina.
Oh my gosh. When I found out about the research she has been doing and what she did, well, basically, long story short, she proved that the cannabis shrunk tumors. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, why didn't I know about this before? Like, why isn't this information out there? I mean, she's amazing. You know a little bit more about her because I know you've researched her a lot.
Dr. Christina Sanchez studied Dr. Raphael Mechoulam and the University of Ben Gurion and in Jerusalem. And she did that for many years. And then what happened was Spain came to her and said, we'll build you a lab just to study medical cannabis in Canada. And that was done 22 years ago. So 22 years ago, her lab was established. She immediately began doing research and then got into clinical trials. One of the things she's done is she's actually proven that the cancer shrinks with the use of cannabis. And the cannabis will shrink the tumor. She's been the anti-tumor properties is probably her biggest contribution. She's done a couple of thousands of research studies. So she's done, the blind tests, the tests, all those kinds of stuff. And so she's proven a lot of different things. One of the things I don't like is because she has shown that this works, she's actually the target of the pharma industry. Pharma industry doesn't want people to know about her because what she has done will absolutely change the way we approach and the way we handle cancer. But I think it's important to point it out. Pay attention to a lot of her research. She does a lot of speaking She puts out a lot of information, and she's somebody who should be noted. I think in the future, in the next 10 years, she'll become an important player in the cannabis industry, especially with respect to cancer. I mean, it's out there. Now, so I want to point out the research is being done, but it's not being done in the United States. What's happening here is that because we actually Schedule One drug, although the legislation was passed last week to reschedule it, they have not rescheduled it. So we're still under the same restrictions of being a Schedule One drug, which means it has no medicinal use, and because it has no medicinal use, we can't study it, which I think is a shame. That doesn't mean, however, that Spain, like Cristina Sanchez, Israel has a number of studies. The UK under GW Pharmaceuticals has done a number of studies. So there are studies being done around the world to see if medical cannabis can help, medical marijuana can help cancer, and they find out that it does. Now, what's interesting is cannabis cancer is a qualifying condition here in the state of Florida to get in this Florida State Registry. So that'll get you this out there. And there are dispensaries that actually distribute and carry RSO oil. I think Trulieve, you're one of them. Is that right, Jenifer?
That is right. And I want to mention really quick, because we were talking about Cristina Sanchez and using cannabis just to prevent, for prevention methods. So if you had cancer, you still qualify. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, RSO, we carry it. We also sell it in bulk pricing. We'll give a special discount if you need to buy it in bulk. There is that regimen that Rick Simpson calls out for, that is 60 grams in 90 days. It's really difficult to do, but you know, we have that special pricing. Right now, for a single gram, it's $50. If you buy 10 at a time, we'll discount $100.
Yeah,
So
I think because one of the things about using cancer, using RSO oil to address cancer is you got to take a lot of it. In other words, you're attacking cancer. It's the best way of putting it. Now,
and little bits at a time, which is the tougher part. So you don't take a lot all at once. For the first time, you have to start in like tiny little minuscule little dots, and it's a little tough. Like I said, you have to have patience.
Yeah, you have to have patience with it, but it does work. The point is, you're attacking the cancer that's out there. I know my mother uses RSO oil for her breast cancer to fight it and to prevent it, and it's something that's really helped her quite a bit.
And thankfully that she is open to doing that, because you know, if not, God knows what condition she'll be in. Because of it, for me, it was, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it too, is such a great adjuvant, you know, with chemotherapy, and just like the next thing we're going to talk about, the reducing the nausea,
sure,
and increasing the appetite. My gosh, it's like immediately, as soon when I was getting chemo, that I wasn't using cannabis, and then I started using it. Oh my gosh. I was like, wow, my appetite again, taste buds, flavors.
Yeah. You want to eat again, small things like that.
Yeah.
There you go. So I think it's something to point out that research is being done, not in the United States, and that it can be helped. There are, if you go out and you look, and I know everybody says don't believe the internet, but if you look at the internet, there are a lot of cases. Kelly, are you familiar with Kelly, Jenifer?
You've told me about her before. I'm not too familiar with her, but I know that she has an amazing story.
Yeah, she actually, you know, obviously, like yourself, fighting cancer. She went through all of the standard treatments, and her cancer kept coming back. Mm-hmm. So she turned to RSO, and RSO has actually helped her. She used it, not just RSO, but she used meditation, yoga, you know, or she basically led a healthy life, and she's alive today. So and she puts this out there for people. She has a website, you know, Cure Your Own Cancer, and it's something to pay attention to. She's again another living proof that's there. There's also Patricia, which I bring up Patricia because she was a person that was diagnosed with lung cancer. She began a Rick Simpson protocol. The growth and the proliferation of the tumors were going down. Somehow in the process, her doctors decided that she should undergo whole brain radiation. Her tumors are gone right now, but the problem is she was severely hurt by the radiation. And the reason I bring that out is because no one has ever died. No one has ever had any negative side effect from using medical cannabis. Okay, using a lot of the pharma treatments in areas you're going in that way. Look, cancer is scary. Cancer is you bet your life. This is not a joke. This is about as serious as it gets. But on the other side of the coin, you want to do it in a way that you're giving yourself the best options. And like I said, in her particular case, it wasn't necessarily the best option. She's put out a website, the science between the science and the law, and she did that for a purpose, to have other people understand there are alternatives that are out there, and she ought to take a look at them. That's there.
Awesome.
Now, one of the other questions comes up in the research area: how is medical cannabis? Has there been research done? Now, I don't know how many people here in the United States are aware of something called PubMed. This is from the National Institute of Health, and PubMed is where all the research that's being done is stored in PubMed, so the doctors can go out and access this information and see the medical research that's been done. If you take a look at just medical marijuana, if you type that into PubMed, there are 33,000. Actually, there's more than that. There's over 33,000 studies that have been done on medical cannabis that are in PubMed. Now, you might say, how does that happen since Schedule I drugs in the United States are illegal? Because most of that research, in fact, almost all of that research is all overseas. It's all been done internationally. And so what a lot of people don't know is that the United States government started funding research into medical cannabis in 1964. That's 1964. And we did that by giving funding to Raphael Mechoulam at Ben Gurion University and the University of Jerusalem. And we funded them up until in the year 2010, where Raphael Mechoulam came back in 2010 and said, I have $3 billion companies. I don't need your money anymore. And the United States government said, fine. And they still send it to the University of Ben Gurion, Ben Gurion University. We're still doing that. And I point that out because part of that deal was to put all those studies into PubMed. And that's
Yeah,
over
this
50
is a tool
studies.
that I use greatly when I'm out there educating the physicians and their staff. I'm like, guys, there's so much information. You guys are gonna be so surprised. And I come back with doctors sending me emails, or their admins sending me emails about links of research, and I'm like, yep.
Right. And I point that out too, because not only in PubMed, but also the National Institute of Health,
Yep.
it's the National Cancer Institute. And if you type in marijuana, there's 118 studies that are being done out there.
And that is so comforting. That is so comforting, going through cancer and being able to go into there and seeing that. It's like, okay, it's okay,
Right.
at least to me.
Yeah, they know that there's research being done, and there's information that's being put out there. And this helps not only yourself, but it also helps the doctors. So we're going to digress for a second. I know we're getting some questions. We'll answer them. So Carl, Trudy, Gina, we'll get to your questions. But I want to dive down a little bit deeper into how cannabis works. Why does it help? Why is it effective against cancer? And I think the main issue is the endocannabinoid system. What we've discovered over the last 50 years is that every human being, every mammal has an endocannabinoid system. It parallels your nervous system. And this is a very important function in the body. In fact, it's probably one of the most important functions that helps your body regulate itself. And not many people have heard about the endocannabinoid system, and that's why we bring it up. Jenifer, you want to walk through this? You want me to walk through this?
Yeah, look how large in the diagram that system is. It goes out through all over the brain and all over the organs. It's a system. It's a very large system. Just like we have the nervous system and the endocrine system, this system helps, like Marc was saying, helps regulate regular functions in life, like sleeping, eating, cognitive function. That's huge, right? That's like living, right? So the body has the own natural cannabinoids inside the endocannabinoids, right? So we have the anandamide, we have the the 2-AG, I believe it's called.
2-AG, right?
Those are natural ones from our body. Like from when a mom breastfeeds a child, there's cannabinoids going through that nursing milk, right? And none of us knew this. And when I started learning all this, I was like, no, and I started researching. I'm like, there's more. It's a whole system in the body.
Yeah,
So
in fact, what's interesting is if you look at it, the blue, which is the over here, is the CB1 receptors. The CB2 receptors are the ones that are darker colors. And what's fascinating about this is this endocannabinoid system regulates your body. This is how your body regulates itself. It's how it regulates pain, it regulates memory, it regulates appetite, it regulates anti-inflammation. This is how your body regulates itself. And the way it does that is that your CB1 receptors primarily regulate parts of your body that have to do with your brain and your nervous system. That's why you see the light blues that are there. And the dark blues ones are the ones where the CV2 receptors come into play, which is mainly your peripheral organs and your immune system. So you see, it covers your entire body. And again, what's interesting is that, and I'll go back up. Let me back up just for a second. Is it up here? CBD, CBN, THC. It works like lock and key with your endocannabinoid system. In other words, these are the receptors in here. This is where it works in the lock and key to be able to help you regulate your body. This is how your body regulates itself. And that's what's important to understand. What's interesting is your body develops endocannabinoids. You yourself, when your body sees there's a problem, it produces endocannabinoids like inflammation. That'll actually go to send through the bloodstream, send those endocannabinoids, and it treats that part of your body. This is where the anandamides and those types of things come into play. Now, as you may not have enough endocannabinoids in your system to address your situation. I'm a senior citizen. My body doesn't produce as many endocannabinoids as it did when I was younger. So being able to help and be able to feed and provide your body some of those resources, it's kind of like charging a battery. And that's what the photocannabinoids come into play. This is the plant-based. So this is where cannabis comes into play. So you can produce naturally the same THCs, the CBDs, the CBNs that your body's producing. And that's what you're finding in cannabis that's here. Now, I should point out that there are also synthetic cannabises. These are cannabises that have been produced in the laboratory. It's kind of like a scientist believes that they can reproduce an apple or an orange in the lab. They can come close, but they're not going to produce the exact product that's out there. They can make the chemical makeup, but it's not going to contain all the terpenes and the things that go with it to be able to address, which is really to provide the benefits of cannabis is there. But Mirinol is something that's out there. You may or may not hear about it. Do not take it or do not use it unless you're under a doctor's care. This is very, very powerful stuff. It's THC only, which means it has no CBD in it. And the CBD obviously helps regulate the THC. So it's something that's there. I don't recommend it unless you have a doctor's care, but I want to make you aware that it's there. You may hear that term, and it's something to please steer clear of unless you have a doctor's help. But all those photocannabinoids go into your endocannabinoid system, and this is where your body then turns around and regulates your appetite, your pain, your pleasure, your immune system, your mood, everything, and your memory. That's what's key, is your body is regulating itself. Now, let me kind of break this down for you. Your body, your nervous system knows there's a problem. And so what happens is the cannabis in your system gets stored in what they call your fatty acids. So there's a perception that the cannabis you take goes directly to your CB1 and CB2 receptors. It doesn't do that. What it does, your cannabis goes into your fatty acids. When your nervous system notices a problem, what it does is it then triggers those fatty acids to break them down into long chain fatty acids. And what that does is that produces the endocannabinoids that are needed, and it's distributed through your bloodstream to that particular part of your body. That's how cannabis works. So it's interesting. This explains really two things. No one has ever died by taking cannabis, either recreationally or medically, and that's because your body is producing its own medicine. It's not a foreign substance. It's not producing something that's different for your body. Your body's not going to produce something that's harmful to it on purpose. And in fact, if anything, it's going to help do things to try to heal itself. So this is one thing that we find. This is why cannabis hasn't killed anybody. Number two is they have a thing called the Entourage Effect. Since it's your neurons that are triggering the cannabis in your body, what's interesting is your nervous system, your nerves know where the problem is. The nerves don't need a doctor to tell you that you have inflammation in your knee. Your nerves don't need to have a doctor to tell you have pain in your shoulder. When your nerves find this, it says I have a problem. It then produces the endocannabinoids and it goes out and treats it. So this is called the Entourage Effect. A person will get into cannabis, start using cannabis because of inflammation in their knee, then they find out that their shoulder pain went away, or their glaucoma. In the case of my mother, her glaucoma went away. Okay, this is your body healing itself, and that's called the Entourage Effect. This is very counter to what they call our normal pharma practice. Our pharma practice wants to take one pill for one situation for what's out there, when in fact what we're doing is this is a very different approach. This is where nature is. We're giving nature the tools to have your body be able to produce the endocannabinoids that it needs to be able to heal itself. And this is a very important process. I know I really like this slide because I think it explained to me as an engineer, I always try to figure out how come nobody ever died from using cannabis, and this helps to explain a lot of that. So there is uh, a couple of different components of cannabis. Tell me about CBD and THC.
So these are the most popular cannabinoids that we've probably heard about. You guys have all, I'm sure, heard about THC. You know, it is the psychotropic component of cannabis. But there's also CBD, which we've also started hearing lately a lot more about, which is the non-psychoactive. Now, I like to explain CBD as an anti-inflammatory and the THC as the pain reliever. So you'll see that a combination of these two iteration, we'll talk a little bit about that later, work very well for a lot of people. Gives them the relief of the pain, but with the CBD reduced, it doesn't give them so much of a psychotropic feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is these are the two main things you hear about when you talk about cannabis. This is the famous cannabis wheel. So when you hear about cannabis, what does it help? On the inside here, it talks about the different things that cannabis addresses. On the outside are the different components. You'll hear about CBG, CBA, CBD, CBC. These are the different components that are out there, the delta 8s, the delta 9s, that type of thing. This is the cannabis itself has 450 medical properties. So that you understand how this is broken down, CBD, which is by the way found in in marijuana and also found in hemp, that has 108 medical properties. So these properties that you see over here, and you see over here, there's 108 medical properties in here. When in fact, when you go in and you take a look at using the THC part, which mainly addresses a lot of sleep, it addresses a lot of head injuries, it addresses pain, probably the best pain products. So we'll talk about that in a second when I talk about the overall piece. When you put those together in the entourage effect, you now have this whole spectrum that comes into play here. And that's really important because CBG, which is a CBD product, helps with sleep. And also over here, so does the THCA that helps with sleep. So what you're doing is you're kind of doing one and one is kind of a three thing. And that's how this whole CBD wheel thing works that's out there. And there's a lot of, you can see there's a lot of medical properties that are being aided.
So many.
So, but there's also, you hear a lot about hemp and marijuana. Jenifer, tell me the difference.
Well, you're seeing that the plant looks a little different. The marijuana, you'll see it all budded and flowering. The hemp, it's gonna be more of a stem with leaves. Hemp mostly used for industrial purposes, as you can see here. You know, the leaves for mulch and biofuel and teas and things like that. Textile, building materials. Also, you can also find CBD from hemp, but that's gonna be a lot more of hemp material to be used to be able to get the amount of CBD you would get from the marijuana cannabis plant. Cannabis indica is how it's known scientifically. And you see that it's here enlarged the trichomes, and that's where all the good stuff is at. That's where all the cannabinoids and the terpenes and the flavonoids, that's where they are in the colas of the plant. And that's the good stuff. That's what you want. You want this. This is the medicine.
Right. These are the things you're looking for. But hemp is like kind of a stocky kind of plant.
Yeah.
And weed it's a bush. That's why they call it weed. It's out there. And there are differences between them. And I think that's important to understand. A lot of the trichomes and things is what they're looking for. And that's where a lot of the power, I should say healing power of medical cannabis comes into play. That's over here. Now, when I got involved in the business, all I heard about this was about 6 years ago. All I heard was sativa and indica. And you still hear about sativa and indica. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But these are there's kind of fundamental building blocks that have been actually, a lot have been added to it. So tell me the difference between sativa and indica.
So the plants, you will look at them with the plain eye, you will kind of be able to see what is what. So the sativas are going to be taller, longer, narrower, and taller. And they're gonna last longer to flower. So any sativa strains are gonna take a little bit longer. Keep that in consideration. Also best suited for warm climates. Now, in here in Florida, we do a lot of indoor growing, so we, work with the temperature. But sativa is strains that are very uplifting. I think sativa, I say arriba. It's like a Cuban coffee, a shot of Cuban coffee. It gives you a lot of energy. It's great for people that have fatigue. The indica strains, now these are more bushier, shorter in stature, fatter, chunkier plants, broad leaves, shorter flowering cycle, which is great because we need a lot of indicas to be able to go to sleep through all this nonsense that's going on in the world. But it's better suited for colder climates, with the shorter winter seasons. The indica, I like to say in the couch, so you'll feel heavy body, relaxed muscles, great for anxiety, great for pain to go to sleep. And that's basically the difference between those. There's many different strains that lean either to sativa or indica, or might lean in between either or, which just comes to the hybrid, which is mostly a lot of.
What's happened over the last 6 years is we've really got into what we call cannabinoids. In other words, the concept of what's called strains have come into play. In strains more than anything else, where they've looked at developing strains of products that address particular conditions like sleep, okay, like cancer, like inflammation. And I say that because what they're doing is they're not only taking those strains of both sativa and indica plants, but they're mixing them together in what they call hybrids. And I would say most of the cannabis products that you buy on the market today are hybrids, which is really interesting. And it may be what they call sativa leaning, or it may be indica leaning, but in essence, it really is, they've now been able to combine things together. And I kind of look at it like, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we had these Chinese doctors that if you had a problem, you can go talk to them. They'd turn around and open up a bunch of boxes, put some stuff together and make you a tea. It tastes terrible, but solve the problem. It was cannabis kind of the same way. What they're doing is they're putting together different components to be able to address particular situations. Again, to help with inflammation, to help with cancer, to help with the different medical conditions that are out there. And also, a lot of these cannabinoids are being tied to terpenes. And that's a very important part of this whole discussion. We're going to talk about terpenes in just a minute, but terpenes are a natural part of the flower that's out there that be able to actually add to the characteristics of it. You want to mention something about terpenes, Jenifer?
Yeah, terpenes. I love talking about them. It's very easy for me to explain it in the sense of, if you know essential oils, it works just like essential oils. It's the scent of the plant that makes you feel a certain way. You know, if something has a certain type of relaxing terpenes, you know, it's going to be an indica strain leaning, right? And you can see that by the terpene profile. If you like a strain a whole lot, and that harvest is over, knowing that terpene profile and what the high terpene percentages are will help you get another strain that's similar. So
Right.
it's really good to
We'll
learn
talk
about
about it in a minute, but every person's body is different. What's fascinating is a lot of we get conditioned to take 2 pills and call me in the morning, kind of thing. That's our doctor's approach. With cannabis, it's not that way. Every person's body is different. What I take, if Jenifer takes, we take the same thing and it'll have 2 different reactions to us, because it has to do with our body. Remember, our body is producing its own endocannabinoids, and our body is distributing it through our blood system. So what's interesting is that as long as we are all different, we're all going to react a little bit differently to it. Some people have high tolerances to THC, some people have low. Some people have, high tolerances to CBD that's out there. But this is where what's interesting is we have a term called go low and go slow. Start with 25 milliliters, take it two maybe twice a day, see how that affects. If it doesn't work, then what you want to do is you want to be able to maybe increase the number of times you take it a day, like Monday in the morning, midday, night. And then maybe if that doesn't work, maybe increasing the amount of that, instead of 25 milliliters, 50 milliliters, but go low and go slow. You really can't answer. Nobody I know can answer a question of what's good, what is the appropriate milliliters for you, but you can find out yourself very quickly by using a go low and go low strategy that's out there. You've seen that quite a bit, haven't you, Jenifer?
Yes, definitely. And it's really hard to find a dosage sometimes. You have to try to learn how to read your body as best as possible, because you're the only one's going to be able to do that the best. Doctors will guide you, with how to start, which, how many milligrams or whatever, but you are the one that's going to be able to gauge that, right? And like I said, since the beginning of this seminar, patience. Have patience, you'll get there. Just don't do a whole lot at once, because you might get like either anxious or paranoia. You don't need to go through that. Just little by little, you will get there. And terpenes, we got the terpenes.
Sure. So this is your favorite. Tell me about terpenes.
My favorite. I love terpenes because when I first started fighting cancer, I started learning about essential oils, and then it was so much easier for me to learn about terpenes because I already knew about essential oils. So basically, here you can see a chart on the right side of different top popular terpenes and what their vaporizing temperatures are, which I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, which is really important. And different strains that have those types of terpenes. So they're the most common plant chemical in nature. Um, this is found in flowers, spices, fruits, vegetables. It's essential oils. It's the essential oil of the plant, right? So, for example, if we're in a room, and I always like using this analogy of having a room enclosed with a vaporizer full of lavender oil that's out in the air, and you start breathing that lavender oil, you will start getting sedated, and you might yawn, and you'll feel relaxed, and your breath will be at ease. And cannabis is the same thing. If a strain has a lot of lavender, you're going to be sure that that strain is going to be a very relaxing strain. And the limonene, which is like lemon, will be uplifting. The pine will be uplifting too. So it's very, very similar to essential oil. So it's the essential oil of the plant, and it makes you feel different ways. And I like your analogy of the highway, and you can explain this best.
Well, one of the things that I always got, that when I got into medical cannabis, I had an auto accident, and I ended up with herniated discs in my neck and in my back. It was 7 herniated discs in your neck. You have a pain problem. And so when I first got my prescription or my recommendation from the doctor, I went into the dispensary, and it's intimidating because if you look at my picture in the background, there's a lot of products. And the bud tender looked at my recommendation. She looked at me, we talked for a little bit, and then she said, here's the products that I recommend. And I kind of said, okay, fine. And I took them and went away. And I started thinking when I was driving home, how did she know? And so the next time I went back, I basically asked the magic question, how do you know that that's the product out of all of these? How do you know the ones that are going to be applied to me? And she said, it's real simple. I looked at your profile. I looked at your recommendations. I looked at what you need, and I matched them to our products that had the right terpene profile, the strains and terpene profiles for you. And I thought, that's interesting. So by being able to look at what I need, matching it with the terpene profiles, bringing it to the actual strains itself, you're able to say, here's the products that are going to be more effective for you. And kind of a light bulb went on, at least for me. And the light bulb that went on was when I got in this industry, everybody said, well, listen, I'll just go smoke a joint and I'll be okay. Everything will work. And, I guess you can do that. It's kind of like using 151 Bacardi when you go to a pool party. It'll work. Okay. It may not work as effectively as you want it to, but the next day it'll work. What I found is that by being able to adjust the terpene profile and the strain, you now have a cannabis product that targets and hits that particular medical condition head on. And that's huge. It means I can now get rid of my pain, or can reduce my pain down to a level that's very acceptable. I can now reduce my inflammation. It allows me to walk and move with basically fairly freely. And I can do it where I'm not high. In other words, I'm able to conduct my business on a daily basis. I can't be doing these webinars, for example. I guess I could, being high. But the point is, I have a business to run, and I have people that I have to that rely on me for answers and information. And this is what really helps. It's these terpenes tied to the strains that give you that focus that's there. That is the heart of medical cannabis. It's there.
Definitely.
But you were mentioning some of these like myrcene and limonene and linalool. These are the things you were.
The pinene, very interesting. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice, and always, get with your doctor. But the pinene for medical benefits, you see there, bronchodilator. And a lot of people have a hesitation on like vaping. But remember, keep in mind that is vaping or inhaling is the fastest way you're going to get relief. So, it's even effective for asthma. So if anyone is on the verge because, they're scared, there you go.
Yeah, pinene is an interesting one because it really helps a lot with, like you said, a lot of bronchial conditions and things like that. But what you've got to be careful of is it helps with memory retention. And so if you're suffering from PTS, what you want to do is you want to stay away from pinene, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to bring back those memories.
Over and over and over those, yeah.
Right, you're trying to repress them. So in PTS patients, we don't recommend, and I recommend staying away from pinene. But if you have a bronchial condition and you don't have PTS, it's something that helps quite a bit. So again, this is where your medical marijuana doctor, this is where your dispensary, your bud tender will help you to be able to get the answers you need to be able to put together the regime or the program that'll really help you. Um, I think that's really key. And again, this is not something that's happenstance. They know exactly what your condition is, and they can give you exactly the product that you want. Now, some people have asked, how do I take it? What dosing forms do I take? And I think that's an interesting question because there are, and I think we'll get to a lot of the questions as soon as we finish this dosing part. There's different ways of taking it. You've got, you take Trulieve, you have tincture oils, right? You have pens.
We have so many different products to offer. I think over 250 SKUs, anywhere from a topical cream to a pre-rolled joint and everything in between. But we offer varieties of products where experienced and inexperienced patients can have what they need, right? So customarily, we're not gonna recommend a concentrated product, for example, for an inexperienced patient, right? So we'll start with a ratio product, things like that. So we have a variety of different things. I always like talking about layering products. It's worked great for me
And
and other
that gets
people that
into
I
this right here.
yeah.
Let's get right into this right here. Why don't you by that? Why don't you explain what you mean here?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, inhalation will always be the fastest way of relief. But okay, so you'll inhale 2 or 3 inhalations, 3-second ones really quickly, and you'll start feeling within 5 to 10 minutes relief. But then, 30 minutes later starts wearing off and you have this constant pain or whatever you're going through. Then you should definitely layer when you're doing those inhalations. Use an oral product which you're not going to feel right away. It's not going to interfere in giving you a heightened effect. You're going to start feeling it later once that vaporization effect goes away. And then topical, if you have targeted pain in your body, put some topical on there. That's not going to give you any psychotropic feeling, and it's going to help build a layer. That's why I call it layering. It's like putting on sweaters. And as you can see here, all the different types of product and how long the onset takes and how long the relief lasts, they vary. Layering can prolong for you to have like a perfect regimen just for you, and that takes time and patience. Again, it's not something you're gonna probably figure out right away, but.
And I'll use myself as an example. What I find out was when I right after my accident, when I woke up in the morning, I was in a level of pain of a 7 or an 8, which is getting out of bed. That's painful. So I would take I had some CBD drop. I had some tincture drops that I took that addressed it. It was with a higher THC level for the pain. Had some CBD for the inflammation. But that would take, if you notice over here, the time to work. In my case, it took about 20 to 25 minutes to work. I knew that. Okay. So what I would do is I'd grab a vape pen and literally take a hit off a vape pen. And this may sound crazy, but within a minute or two, the pain went away. The pain went from a level of 7 down to a 1. I mean, this little guy right here, this little vape pen here is my morning go-to. Okay, because when I wake up in the morning with a high level of pain, I'm able to take 1 or 2 hits, and it feels like somebody wiped my back, and the pain just went down from like a 7 or 8 down to 1. First time it happens, you just kind of look. I mean, I said to my wife, "This is weird." And even this morning when I did it, I'm amazed every time that happens how effective it is. And that goes back to your layering.
I am too. I still feel the same way. I look over my shoulder. I'm like, ha ha ha. Yeah. It's working.
Yeah, exactly. But the point I'm making is that this is your layering in effect. So what I'm doing is I'm using the vape pen to help me with my first 2 hours. I'm using the drops to carry me from the 2 hours all the way to the 4 to 6 hours. Now in my particular regime, because I have herniated discs in my neck, they ain't going away. I have a program in the morning, I have a program midday, and I have a program in the evening. Okay. And so by being able to do that, and I've actually discovered a way in the evening to be able to do some layering. So not only can I sleep through the night, but I wake up without a pain level of 7 or an 8. I wake up with a pain level of maybe 2 or 3. So I figured out again, but I've been doing this for over 4 years. Okay. And I've been experimenting with a lot of things to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's the whole thing. I went low and I went slow. If you get it right, you get your life back. That's all I can say. And it's worth spending the time to do that. Now, you might ask the question, what's the difference between capsules and sublingual drops, since I put the drops under my tongue, but the capsules I take themselves. You want to explain the difference?
Yeah, so when you're taking the capsules, it's gonna enter your bloodstream after you digest it. So it's gonna take down, and you have to break it down. It's gonna take longer than if you do sublingual. Sublingual, you're putting it right here on all these capillaries and all these veins. It's gonna go straight. So it's gonna take way longer with capsules. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Now, capsules, they're already prepackaged. You know how much is in each capsule. It's easy to dose, but the sublingual, you'll be able to feel the effects a lot faster when it comes into anything oral.
Yeah, the capsules go into your stomach, and when they go into your stomach, the stomach lining will break those down and produce the endocannabinoids for your body. But it eats up, your stomach does eat up part of that. So it eats up about 20 to 25% of the cannabis in that process. Plus, it takes longer to do that. Why a lot of people use sublingual drops, because you get it's a more effective and more efficient, I should say, that's out there. It also works a little bit quicker. Doesn't last as long, but if you have a regime that's 3 times a day, it's something that's there. A lot of people don't like sublingual drops; they prefer capsules, and that's totally up to you. One of my favorites, and one of the favorites of a lot of people, are edibles.
I was just gonna say that. You took it off my brain. Yes, edibles. Same concept as the capsules or the oral products, just so much discreet. They don't smell like cannabis. They don't taste like cannabis. Very easy to dose. I
Sure.
love edibles. Look at me. I love edibles. Be very careful with them. They taste very good. But they're so, I mean, for me, the brownies were so amazing. And I know it sounds crazy to eat a brownie before going to bed, but while you're going through cancer and chemo, and that little brownie helps you pass out and go to sleep, it's heaven sent.
Yeah, that's out there. This is very important. Now we're in the middle of this dosing right here. We have some questions that have come up. Do you want to take? So we should probably take a few of these.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a lot of questions.
Let's start with Trudy. Trudy said, I purchased a THC tincture and was told it's RSO. It is not thick, but it's a regular tincture. Is there anything I should know about the variations of RSO, if there are any? You want to address this one?
Well, the RSO that I've been familiar with is like a thick, concentrated, filled, dark green, sticky material. But tinctures are made in many different ways. That doesn't mean that might not mean that it's not RSO. Get a hold of whoever you purchase it with. See if you get. That's the good thing about purchasing though from dispensaries, that they have lab reports where you can actually see where everything was sourced and what it really is. Get a hold of whoever you purchase it from and see if they have a lab report or some more information on that.
Yeah.
I don't want
Here in
to
Florida,
say.
the industry is highly regulated. So if you've purchased a product from a dispensary and it's labeled RSO, you should be able to pull the lab report
Yes.
for that product to guarantee that it is RSO. Now, RSO comes in a couple of different forms. One is a very thick concentrate. That's what Jennifer was referring to, where you literally squeeze out about the equivalent of a grain of rice. You can either put it on your skin, or you can take it on a cracker or something like that, and it'll help in that particular area. The other is that there is a tincture oil that is produced from it that's marketed by I think Trulieve as well as other dispensaries, and it's really made for sublingual use. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they've broken it down. They've tried to make it a little bit easier
Yeah.
to take. And so the answer, Trudy, is first of all, check with your dispensary. If it's from a Florida-based dispensary, chance you do have RSO oil. Okay, doesn't have to be thick, but the chance that it's there. You might want to talk to your dispensary about the concentrations, how to take it, because they can probably help you with the best way of administering the. Now, Carl has a question. Carl's question is, please tell me what milligrams to maintain a comfortable level of emotion, medical, physical health. Please, daily amount would be appreciated. You want to attack that, or you want me to take that, Jennifer?
We can both put our 2 cents. I would recommend you research maybe Leafly. Leafly.com is a great research tool. What terpenes are good for what relief you're looking for, and then start seeing what kind of those strains are available in your area. But like I said before, cannabis is personal. Everybody's different. Everybody's deficiency of cannabinoids is different. I can tell you a cookie cutter, this is what you got to take, and it's going to work for you. Again, starting low and going slow, and having patience and titrating. And we'll talk a little bit about, how to get to that sweet spot.
I think most people, kind of the standard rule is to start with a 1-to-1. one CBD, one THC, take 25 milligrams, try it for a day or two and see how effective it is. Now, in many cases, you may not be taking enough of it, okay? So in that particular case, you probably need to increase, if you're taking it maybe twice a day, increasing it, still continue to increase it twice a day and increase that to 50 milligrams. But we're not giving medical advice here. We're not trying to give medical advice. What we're trying to recommend is go low and go slow. That's the process that's out there. I wish, Carl, that there was a way we could say, here's the milligrams and here's what's there and here's the products. Unfortunately, I can't read how your body's going to interpret that. And that's what's important. You're going to have to go through the process of starting with 25 milligrams and a couple times a day and then going from there. But I think as you try different amounts and different timings of the day, as Jenifer said, you can microdose. You can do like 10 times a day, seriously, or you can do it for 3 times. I do it 3 times. And I think it really, you'll find out. What's neat about it is it's not as daunting as you think. Your body will tell you exactly how it reacts. Your body will do something and your body will go, that works. And it's easy to figure it out. Your body responds right away. I'd say, unfortunately, Carl, it's going to be a matter of just going low and going slow. But you will be able to get what you want, which is your comfort level with emotion, physical, as well as whatever pain and inflammation that you're attacking. You will be able to get there. I hope that answers your question. We didn't answer your question, but we gave you the method to get your situation solved, hopefully. Yvette asked a question. She said, I'd like to get off the opioids that were prescribed for anxiety. Is the indica is the one for anxiety again? You want to say,
yeah,
Jenifer?
Usually that's what seems that works best. Again, you think indica on the couch, relaxed, great for anxiety. Again, everybody's different, but yes, if you anxiety and that's what you're trying to do, again, the microdosing, the titration, do not get off your prescription medication all at once, just cold turkey, do not do that. Just, if you're trying to take away the medication, this is not medical advice, start titrating lower on the prescription medication as you go up in the dose and find your balance. But definitely, yeah, indica has always been more or less the type of strains to go with for anxiety.
Right. And I think you can talk to if you go over and you talk to your bud tender, the person that's behind the counter, they'll actually help direct you to certain products that are out there. I know Trudy asked a great question. Does Trulieve have RSO?
Yeah.
Do you have
RSO? The RSO that I was talking about, the same looking like the one that Rick Simpson was holding, the syringe with the dark plant material. That's exactly what we have. They come in 1 gram syringes, and you can start one, and that is great, and it'll last you a while, because the beginning of getting to have your body work with the plant material and not feel overwhelmed, you start with like half a grain of rice, which is very, very little, and you work your way up. So that lasts you a whole lot.
Yeah. Yvette asked an interesting question. Is vaping dangerous?
So smoking, we've always known as dangerous, actual smoking. Vaping, we've seen that it's a healthier way. I work with many, many doctors. I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending anybody to go smoke and vape, but I do work with many doctors that prefer or just recommend not even smoking. They recommend only vaping. You can vape the flower. It's not combusting, and you're getting in all the natural terpenes.
Right. There was a lot of, about a year ago, there was a lot of bad actors. Pardon?
Remember the vitamin E situation back then?
There were a bunch of bad actors. These were products that came into the market, mainly into the recreational space. They were not regulated. There's no testing done by the government or testing done by anybody. In fact, when they found these products, they couldn't even find the people who produced them. Now, this unfortunately, it's a hole in our system, in the medical system here in the United States, that needs to be addressed. But the issue is that here in Florida, every product is tested. Every product is tested for health and safety. And if you're using a vaping product here in Florida, the answer is it's going to be a safe product to use. Now, vaping is vaping, okay? It's sublingual drops are obviously will work a little bit different than vaping. I personally don't mind vaping, and I'll tell you why I don't mind vaping. When you're in a level of pain of a 7 and you can take a hit or two and you get down to a level of 1, I'll pay that price. Let me put it to you that way. It makes my life so much better that it's hard to explain. But I don't think you're not gonna. Let's put it this way: you're not gonna die from vaping. You'll die from smoking, but you're not going to die from vaping. Smoking meaning cigarettes is what I'm trying to point out. So I think I would not say it's 100% safe, but I would not say it's dangerous.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I do want to point out the fact that not only does the product, the medicine itself, the oil, have a lab report, but also the cartridges that are used, the metal, they're also tested. So there's no heavy metal residue or anything behind. Dispensaries are doing everything they can do to keep the patient safe.
Yeah. One of the questions that I have an anonymous question says, what types of cancer cannabis helps to shrink? What are the type of cancer cannabis helps to shrink? That's a good question. A lot of the research to answer that question, you have to really look into the research of Dr. Cristina Sanchez. And so a lot of what she looked into is breast cancer. She looked at pancreatic cancers. She looked at a lot of lymph nodes cancers. She's looked at right now approximately 14 different types of cancer where she's actually done the studies to look at shrinking the blood cells. And I'd have to, if you send us an email, I'll get you the list of the cancers. In fact, you can look her up at Dr. Cristina Sanchez. Just go to Google and look her up, and you'll get a lot of YouTube videos. You'll get a lot of information. You may get more information that you want, but she does list the different types of cancers. Now, she also works with groups throughout the world. So it's not a matter of just her studies, it's other studies that are being done. Like I mentioned, this particular area where they're shrinking cancer cells is something that the pharma companies just absolutely drives them up the wall because it shows how effective cannabis is for cancer. And obviously that's a money-making venture here in the United States. But
and as time passes by, we're going to learn a lot more. Unfortunately, right now, it's the research being done in mice. That's all that's being really done anywhere. But in the future, I'm sure we'll get more targeted answers as to specific cancers, specific strains, specific terpenes that are for those cancers.
Right.
Hopefully sooner or later.
Right. They're there. Anyway, the point we're making is that there are a number of different cancers, and I think the best way to do that is let's look at Cristina Sanchez's work and what's that's out there, and we need to do more of it. We know if we know it works, let's go test it out. So let's take the last question from Gina. Gina says, how are syringes best taken, sublingually or with a bit of food? What's your thoughts?
It kind of has to do with taste. I don't prefer the taste of it, so I don't really want to have it under my tongue or anything like that. I like to just put it on a piece of food and swallow it. I make my own capsules. I still make my own capsules, and I put very little in them. So it's just a personal preference, How do you want to take that? It like I said, it is a very strong planty. Some people love it, but some don't. But in the sense of effects wise and like treating the cancer and stuff, I haven't seen any research where it shows that one way is best than the other. Of course, unless you have cancer in the skin, which, of course, you should probably definitely put it on your skin as well as take it orally.
Right, and it's very thick. Trudy asked the question, does RSO need to be heated?
Good question. No, actually, it's room temperature. You don't have to refrigerate it or anything. Not at all. It's kind of soft, kind of like a honey consistency when you're pushing it out of the syringe.
Yeah,
and you just be able to slide it out really softly and gently.
Sure. So yeah, that should answer that one. So we were kind of going through the different dosing forms. We talked about edibles, topicals. Transdermal patches are very popular. I know transdermal patches is something where you put on a patch and it lasts from 8 to 72 hours. What I like about it is, in my particular world, my regime is I take medical cannabis to address the pain in my body from my herniated discs. So I have a whole routine for that, and it's higher on it's a higher THC than CBD formula. That's what I use for that. Because if I don't have it, I don't get rid of the pain. And I found out my ratio is 4-to-1. So if I have 4 THC to 1 CBD, that works. I'm not high. I can work during the day, and it gets rid of the pain. Now I have inflammation. I had a left knee surgery. I'm a 70-year-old man. I have to address inflammation. So what's interesting is I also have a whole CBD regimen where I use a high CBD, low THC product, and I take both of those together because I'm trying to address the inflammation in my body and I'm trying to address the pain in my body. And once I tracked it that way, I was able to regulate the different products that I use and really be able to dial it into something that works very effectively. So that's This is, and again, transdermal patches help because instead of having to take CBD oil 3 times a day, I put one CBD patch on and it lasts for 3 days. So call me lazy, but
No, it's
helps me.
convenience. It's convenience, you know.
Yeah, very convenient.
On and forget about it.
Right. And then, of course, there are sprays which are used for, especially for children who have epilepsy. The sprays will help be able to with them. But then you have the flower and the crumble, which are more sophisticated ways of using cannabis. And of course, some people just old school. They love flower. That's the way it works.
Flower, you don't have to smoke it. You can bake, and you can make tea with it.
Right. Right. And I know tea is very effective, very, very effective.
It has the acid form, yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to mention about the spray, that it's really great for seizures. And I've seen, I mean, YouTube, all over YouTube, you can see great videos of it working. I've seen a large majority of patients that suffer from extreme cluster headache, migraines, also use the spray. So I just wanted to put that out there. And it's a nasal spray.
Great. Fantastic. Cool stuff. Full extract cannabis oil,
that's the
which is really what RSO is,
that's
right?
the Rick Simpson oil. And again, you know, having patience and being able to work out a regimen for yourself. This is something that your doctor will help you do, but really, really, you're at home. You're the one that is dealing with your days in and days out of how your lifestyle is. And, you know, it's a way of life that you are going to start doing. It's gonna work better for you to use this product on a regular basis than use it once in a blue moon or once in a while when you're like extremely can't deal with whatever it is you're going through. So having a regimen is really important.
I think one thing that's important about a regimen is when I get up in the morning on my nightstand, I have what I need right there. During the day when I'm working in my midday, everything, I have what I need right here at my desk. Okay. So I'm not walking around, I'm not chasing it. That's there. I know in the evening when I sit down with my wife to, for example, watch TV. I have what I need right next to me, right there. Okay, so I think one of the things is there's this concept of having a medicine cabinet in the house where everything's in one spot. I found it's much easier to follow a regime and to follow your program if the product is right there at your fingertips when you need to use it.
Especially when you have extreme pain that you can't think, you can't move, you can't do anything. Having it next to you, it's so convenient. Definitely part of building a regime. Yeah.
Right.
And then microdosing.
You were talking about microdosing as well.
Yes. You know, the doctors are going to give you a certain amount of milligrams, and you're going to be able to purchase, you know, different strains, different flavors of things, and all kinds of stuff. But for example, let's use a gummy. You know, a gummy will be 10 milligrams. Cut it in half. Use half of it. Start half first. You know, this is something new. You want to see how everybody reacts to it. Do it in small amounts and start working your way up. Sometimes microdosing throughout just doing microdoses ongoing for months works perfectly fine for a lot of people. You don't have to increase, but definitely microdosing is a great tool. And titrating the dosages, like you said earlier, 3 times a day or 10 times a day. Still not working, a little bit more times a day. So that's really important too in also letting go of prescription medication or lowering the amount of prescription medication that you're taking, titrating down the prescription medication as well as titrating up on the cannabis. And then journaling, I always like to encourage everyone not to write a whole life story diary of how your day was with cannabis, or you know, how you experienced the high or whatever, but what you took, when you took it, what you were feeling, what kind of relief you had, so you can start documenting what works for you, so that you can have an easy way of building a regimen for you.
It's like you say, your body will tell you what works. And when you start seeing what works, you want to go back and say, wait a minute, this just works. What did I do? That's what journaling is all about. I know that helped me quite a bit. I'm not a journaler by trade.
A good tip that someone gave me once is like, keep your receipts. Like if you're wherever you buy your cannabis has whatever the strains or whatever is, keep your receipts and write a little bit, you know, right next to whatever when you use it, and just start setting those up. And the ones that are good, you keep those, and the ones that are not good, you know, put them on the other side. But it's yeah, definitely good.
But pay attention to what you take and what it does. Your body will tell you when it works. And when it works, you're going to go, wow, that's pretty cool. And you're going to want to go back and look at how to reproduce that to be able to really get your regime down, get what you really
Mm-hmm.
want. Right? It's something that does work. Let's talk about Trulieve.
So
You
Trulieve,
just opened up. What store
that's
do you?
the
How
one
many stores
behind
do you open?
you. You have an amazing picture there. I haven't even been to that store yet. That's Claremont. Was number 68. Today we opened one number 69 today. But basically this is to show you guys that it's a very safe and clean place, and they're gonna treat you with so much respect, kindness, and love. And they're there to answer all of your questions.
Yeah.
All of them.
My
If these
background
are
is
an
Claremont.
hour, it's okay.
Yeah, my background here is Claremont. Give you an
Yeah,
idea.
looks beautiful.
Yeah. But you guys have done something rather fancy with this nanotechnology.
Yeah, so we have a special technology. We call it True Nano. Basically, the particles are broken down in smaller parts, and you're gonna have a quicker onset. So these are oral products, but you'll feel them faster than regular oral products. We have different formulations of ratios like 8:1 and 1:8. Here in the images, you can see the tinctures that we have. These are all water soluble. We also have the True powder underneath, also water soluble. Very easy to dose, microdose. The little scoop that you see there, you can scoop it out. That's 5 milligrams. You can put in a smoothie, a coffee, an iced tea, discreet. The True Tincture Drops, and that's the name we had to call it for the state of Florida. They have to approve every name, but basically they're lozenges, and these are great. These come in CBD, THC, and a combination of THC and CBD. They taste kind of like mint halls, and for flu season or anytime, coronavirus. I'm not saying anything, but that minty lozenge halls thing, but it has a little cannabis in it, and it's just works really quickly. You just put it under your tongue and you swirl it around, and you can feel the effects within probably 15-20 minutes for an oral product. 10 milligrams each lozenge. You can cut it in half if you need to, but also works very quickly.
Yeah, I want to point out a few things. When you say 1:8 and 8:1, you're talking about CBD to THC.
Yes.
So this is where you dial in that ratio, as I mentioned.
Either do we want more CBD or do we want more THC? Exactly.
Right.
Always
and
a great starting point.
And you carry, they're called ratio products that they carry at Trulieve. That's good news. The bad news is they sell out quickly because they're obviously a very powerful medical product. So it's something to pay attention to. The True powder is great. I use it for smoothies. And I think it's great. Smoothies and coffee that's out there. I haven't tried the drop yet, so I guess I should try the drops.
Yeah.
Something got to get on that, I think. But the nanotechnology lets it get into your system. In other words, it gets right into your system a lot quicker versus a lot of other products. You couldn't use it in a smoothie. You couldn't put it in coffee. You could, but you'd find an oily kind of sheen on top.
Yeah, you're gonna lose a lot of the product.
The True technology that's there,
yeah.
And I think that's a real breakthrough. One of the fun products that I love, is Delta 8 and Delta 9. Jenifer, tell me about Delta 8, Delta 9.
Yeah, so we have a couple of products right now. We're working more on the expansion of this line, but the interesting thing is that both Marc and I love this kind of so Delta 9 THC. That's what we've always heard about. But then about a year ago, we started hearing about this Delta, and I was like, what is this? And I started looking more into it. So basically, THC Delta 8 has all the components and the relief that THC Delta 9 provides with the pain and such, but not the same psychotropic feeling. So it has a much lower psychotropic feeling than the Delta 9 THC. So when you put it in a combination of ratios, so you can see the True Pod has 3 parts. It has the Delta 8, which is not such a psychotropic component, the CBD, which is not such a psychotropic component, then it has a little bit of that Delta 9. It's such a balanced feeling that most of the patients give us feedback. Very good for being able to work and function and focus, but not in a tensed manner. That's what I get a quote, air quotes, feeling normal again.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, this product right here, this 1:1:1 is what I primarily use. It's as good as Percocet. When I had my knee surgery, I had knee replacement. They gave me Percocet for the first couple of days, and then I stopped using pharma drugs altogether. I worked with Druid Orthopedic. And we worked on a program where I used medical cannabis for post-surgical pain management. I felt it worked better than the pharma drugs that were there. And some of the doctors at Jewett had to agree after about 8 weeks of studying this with other patients. What's interesting is that this delta, that 1 to 1 worked as well, if not better, than Percocet. It's really amazing because when you're in pain, you want to get rid of that pain, and that's what works. And what I love about it is because it's a 1 to 1 to 1, I'm not high. That's what's important. That's something that's really really key. I know that Delta 8, Delta 9, there's a potential to get high if you got to be careful with the dosing on that one. But the 1 to 1 to 1 has been really really effective for me,
Yeah,
and it's something to really
very
pay attention to.
clear-minded, clear thoughts. Like that's what I get from it.
Hold on, let me go back a little bit. A little operator error here. Yeah, but I think this is something that's really important. If you're trying to deal with pain, and with cancer, you get pain. Okay, and that's one of the things that comes out there. Don't mess around. I've played with a lot of different products. This one works. That's what I put in. Easiest way to put it out there. Elaine asked a question. Could you repeat the Delta 8 and Delta 9 on which is more psychotropic? I think Delta 9 is more
Yes.
psychotropic. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Delta 8 is less psychotropic. I hope that answers your question, Elaine. There.
Yeah, and when doing research, like Googling or whatever, just put THC Delta 8, THC Delta 9, because if you put Delta 8, Delta 9, something of airlines might come out, Delta. But yeah, definitely look it up. Delta 9, it will be the more psychotropic one.
Right. Now, one of the other things that helped you get better wasn't just medical cannabis. You changed your diet, right?
Yeah, I did. I should get back onto that same diet, but I haven't. But I did change my diet. I did a lot of things that were gonna clean my blood and just clean my system since I had so much chemo and radiation. So I did that. Definitely a lot of I did some fasting, fasting with prayer. I did that. And just a combination of all those things together, people were like, "Oh my God, you are so much like you're glowing." Nobody would ever think just because I had like super short hair because my hair had all fallen out. That's the only reason like people knew what I had gone through. I was glowing. The neuropathy was going away, and it was a combination of all those different basic self-care things that you need to center yourself back into like I need to help myself because if I don't help myself, I can't do for others or anything. So
Yeah.
take care of yourself.
Basic self-care. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't a magic wand. This isn't fairy dust. You're not going to take it and magically have something's going to happen. But this is something that tie it to the right diets, tie it to the right nutrition that's there. I know that I take 10 to 30 minutes a day, depending on my day, to be able to just breathe and meditate, just be able to listen to my body, be able to just tune into my body. And I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like it's one of those crazy little Zen things that are out there, but it's amazing how effective it really helps me during the day to be able to manage and the
Remember,
stress
our
levels.
bodies are always in alert. Our nerves, our body, we're always in alert,
Yeah.
always doing something. So we need that grounding time, definitely.
But I'm just saying, put together a program. It's you, it's your body. You want to save your life, attack it. Yes, you can have things like cannabis help you attack it, but I also think having the right diet, being able to take care of yourself, and putting yourself in the right mental spot really makes a big difference. If you're constantly on a downward cycle, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
You are going to get better. You may need to be able to try some go low and go slow techniques, but trust me, when you go low and go slow, and one of those things works, and your body lets you know, it's like you hit a home run. It's like, whoa, I just got a hole in one in golf. Here we go. This is it right here. You will know very quickly within the first week or two
Mm-hmm.
what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So now I think we finished most of our presentation. So I'm going to end the presentation. We've answered lots of the questions. Do you have any last comments you want to make, Jenifer, about this?
Well, I want to thank you for bringing me on because this is something I have a passion for. I love talking to people about cannabis. I've been studying and researching cannabis since I was 18 years old. I'm 40. I'm gonna be 42 now, and most of the time was hiding, but I knew that this was something that didn't only work for me. I didn't think I was like I'm not different. I'm not just a weird person that it works for me. I knew that this was beneficial and I kept pushing and learning and pushing and learning. And, you know, I had to deal with a lot of discrimination over my cannabis use, and you know, the way that I speak about it, and how I'm always posting things like, you know, I'm on Facebook jail right now for posting about cannabis, but you know, I continue. I get a lot of negativity still, not as much as before, but I'm here to always, whoever needs help or whoever needs guidance, I connect people with different organizations and doctors. I love teaching about cannabis, and this just has given me such an opportunity to be able to not only tell my story personally with my health, but also how my career has helped to help other people with this one plant.
You know, our goal with these webinars is if we can help one person in each webinar
Mhm.
be able to get their life back, really, and be able to lead a normal life, then we're successful. You know,
Yes.
we're just looking, we're being very humble. If we can have one person just say, you know, this might work, give it a try, and they find out that it does. And like I say, your body will tell you when it starts working. And when it starts working, there is no better feeling than knowing your body's getting back to normal. You know, I got my life back is really, really important. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. You know, like I said, there's a lot of people who talk about it. You did it. And I think
Yes.
it's important to point out that there are many others out there like you, but for you to be able to do that, I think, and brave enough to be able to stand and be able to go through that whole thing, it's been wonderful. And I want to thank you. We've done a couple of webinars this year, and you know, it's the end of the last one of the year.
Last one.
We are going to have a series. We have 12 more webinars planned starting the second week of January. They'll be announced within the next couple of days. The speakers and the actual webinars themselves. They'll be done on Wednesday nights. I might mention that we are going to also have a wellness series next quarter. It's not going to be medical marijuana awareness, but it'll be a wellness awareness program. We're going to probably do 4 of them and take on a number of different subjects if people are interested on subjects like B12, CBD, dosing, that type of thing. So we're trying to get as much information out there to help people as we possibly can. I want to thank everybody who came and watched this webinar tonight. I know it's taking your time, and we really do appreciate what you're doing, paying attention and what's there. You will get after this webinar an email from us, and that email will have the video, it'll have a copy of the presentation, it'll have a copy of notes, the research material that's out there. And please feel free to send us an email if you have any questions or concerns. We'll be more than happy to answer them. Our goal is to really help people get their life back. And again, the only way we can do that is by working with you, the patients. And we want to thank you very much for that. So thank you very much. And please have a wonderful, hopefully we can close out 2020. I don't think anybody's going to mind seeing it go.
Bye.
Yeah,
but we'll see you in 2021 for sure.
Hopefully 2021 will be a lot better. But I really want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. I seriously do. Please stay safe. And please pay attention.
Yourselves. You come first.
Yeah. And we can get through this thing. And unfortunately, it takes patience for us to do that. We need to do that. So thank you very much. And I really want to thank a couple of people who have done a lot to be able to make this possible. Lee Jones and Deja have been in the background. You don't see them. They help with the Q&A and the questions and things like that. And it's something that really helped quite a bit. But thank you very much for doing that. We did have, let's see, Bruce brought up one comment that said that the syringe tastes horrible. I think you mentioned that.
Some
Amen,
people
Bruce.
like it.
I don't know a lot of people. I don't know if anybody likes it.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. Sometimes I get like a gummy, like a regular gummy, and I put a little bit and I do a gummy sandwich and just take it all in.
That's how
but the capsules are very easy to do. Capsules are very easy. You know, you can buy yourself capsules anywhere and make your little microdoses. You know, if you want to make sure you take little every certain amount of hours. But yeah, the flavor is not the best.
Great. Well, listen, everybody, thank you very much for attending. Happy holiday season.
Thank
and Jenifer, thank you very much. And thanks Trulieve for sponsoring
appreciate you guys.
You guys have a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.